Hi there, welcome back to the channel. I hope you're having a great day so far. If it's your first time, do me a favor, take a second, hit subscribe, and please don't forget to like and share. I've been on a journey of learning as much as I can about entrepreneurs on YouTube. I've been exploring, and I keep going back to the entrepreneurs in Africa. I'm so inspired by the lessons they've shared and through Wadamaya's videos. Yes, I've done a series of videos about the women entrepreneurs, but of course, you know I have to also include the men because they also have great nuggets of information that I'd love to share with you today. The first two entrepreneurs I'm going to share are from Uganda, but very different stories. I've learned so much from both of these gentlemen, and it's inspiring when I think about it after reflecting. The first entrepreneur is a billionaire. And to be honest, he's a very deep young man. I had to watch these videos 12 times to really truly understand what it was I was taking away from his video.
People will always hate you. If you are better than them, regardless of where you are, people will always hate you. So the better you adjust your reasoning capacity and you accept it, the better you move forward, the faster you move forward.
He shared that he was born and raised in Uganda and he saw great potential. And he figured out the key to success was to understand the difference between knowledge and wisdom. Yes, we go to school to gain knowledge, book smarts if you will, but true wisdom comes from the action of doing things. He also shared the importance of reason and capacity. Understanding and identifying a problem or a gap, a need, and finding a solution. This will help you be successful as an entrepreneur. And he did just that.
You should draw the difference within reasonable perimeters. You should draw the difference between knowledge and wisdom. Professors have acquired a lot of knowledge with ability to articulately pass it on to others, but with total inability to practically apply it towards their own progress and prosperity of their societies. Reasoning is key. It is deep, critical analysis of the prevailing circumstances without necessarily fronting personal emotions and desires. Because you see, with reason we do what is right. With desires and emotions, we do what we desire.
He saw the importing and exporting that was happening in Africa, but also identified all of the resources that were actually there in Africa and decided that if he could create an agro-processing plant in Uganda, in fact, 10 regions, so many of them, he could keep the resources in Africa instead of having them imported and then export them out so that he could make a profit. This was a great concept. Not only did he provide a lot of opportunities for work and different opportunities for people to learn and grow and showcase the benefits of Africa, the resources that they have and what they're capable of.
I want to know why agro-processing.
We export a lot of raw materials and import a lot of finished goods at 10 or 20 times the price for what we imported it at. So I was thinking, if I can set up integrated agro-processing plants, I can add value and look for the demand for agro-produce, not just domestically through import substitution, but also regionally and internationally. That way, I would have improved the lives of majority of Ugandans. Because you see, I'm not going for farming, no. The Ugandans will be the outgrowers. Then I'm staged at value addition. If I can market, if I can aim for the market, specifically moving within the directions of demand and supply, I look for the market, I process and export and bring money back home. That way I will improve a lot of lives for a lot of households in Uganda.
But he also shared the important lesson of diversifying yourself as an entrepreneur. Not only did he invest in this project, but also in real estate in Africa, in the US, and in the UK. He also has a logistics company in the US. Talk about diversification, my goodness, busy man. But all of these things helped him in generating his business.
When it comes to the real estate, how many buildings have you built so far in Uganda? Do you have numbers?
No, I have quite a lot of commercial properties in Uganda, in various areas, from commercial structures to now real estate housing structures for residential. I have quite a number of projects, quite a number.
Apart from Uganda, what other countries are you investing in?
I have quite a number of properties. I have a logistics company in the United States, trading as Express Logistics in Dallas. I also own property in the UK. I'm quite spread out, but I'm mainly focused and invested in Africa.
As he went along, he shared nuggets of information. Most importantly, that there's going to be people that you come up against that aren't going to like you. They're in fact going to hate you because you're successful. And you can't let that get to you. You need to keep your eye on the prize. Keep moving forward and working hard. What I really appreciated about this young man is that he's giving back to his community. He not only has built a stadium for the community to be able to utilize.
Maybe when you look at the stadium, how many Africans have built a stadium like I've done? Maybe I may be the first or one of the few. What I've done in its totality as building a stadium, it is an illustration to my fellow Ugandans and Africans that look here, even for massive projects like this one, we can do it ourselves.
But he also even built a replica of the White House to help inspire Africans to see what's possible, to live their dreams.
I decided to do the White House in Uganda. Let us struggle or strive towards achieving our desires in our motherland, instead of struggling and striving so much towards leaving our motherland. I know majority leave because of different prevailing circumstances. I don't want people to get me wrong.
He gives to causes such as when COVID-19, he helped with some vaccinations. He also helped families during Ramadan. There's so much that he's giving back to his community, but he's giving hope and understanding to people that by changing your mindset and thinking what's possible instead of what's impossible, anything is possible.
Charity work?
Yeah.
What kind of charity work do you do?
Depending on the prevailing need and circumstances. Like there was COVID, I came through and gave 500 million to the community to buy drugs for vaccination. So it depends on the prevailing circumstances. We are going for Ramadan. I've already bought a lot of things I'm going to give to different mosques and people, communities.
He shares that reason shows that there's a lot of potential for Africans in Africa. They don't need to go outside of the continent to become successful. And he's living proof of that.
Within perimeters of reason, self-identity is very key. And taking personal responsibility is equally key. So, whose responsibility is it to develop Africa and pull it forward? Is it for the Westerners, is it for the Europeans, or is it for the Africans? So if all Africans are leaving Africa, whom are they leaving Africa for?
I could go on and on about this particular gentleman because he has so many lessons. But I encourage you to watch the video on Wadamaya's interview because he really goes deep with this young man. And he asked some hard questions, which I appreciated, Wadamaya. That was awesome.
I read on the internet that you're a self-made billionaire.
Yeah.
Is that true?
Yeah.
I also read on the internet that you're being supported by the government, or whatever you're doing. That's what I read on the internet, that whatever you're doing is backed by the government. Is that true?
He also has another video where he was able to share his house with us. He says you only have one house You only have one car because you're only one person. And as much as you have money, it doesn't mean you have to splurge and spend it all on yourself, but to give back to the community is important.
In the initial stages of prosperity, a man looks for a nice house, a nice car, better ways of survival. What happens if you're no longer limited to survival? You can drive the car you want, you can live in the biggest house possibly you can afford. Then what? You still eat one plate of food, you still drive one car at a time, you can still stay in one house regardless of what you possess. So, what then?
But he works hard and he's changed lives. It was amazing to see.
To all my fellow Africans and the world at large, to everyone listening to me, my message would be, if you get a chance to get hold of my two books, Success and Failure Based on Reason and Reality, and Reason as the word masterpiece, I would advise you to read it. For I'm not trying to tell you how much I've achieved, but how can we kickstart each other's reasoning capacity to make sure we make the world we live in and the African continent a better place.
The other entrepreneur is a man that went from adverse poverty and made something incredible about himself. He started 5 tourism resorts in Uganda from nothing. He taught me so many valuable lessons, especially that when other people write you off, they don't think you're good enough or you're too poor or whatever the situation may be, not to give up on hope and belief in yourself, because it's you ultimately that are going to make the difference, the effort, and put the time and effort in.
So I did my course for 9 months, a certificate, and I did extremely well. Because, I had committed myself, I'd made a mistake, and all of us in life, I think that's why the Bible says we've all run short of the grace. So we all have the potential of bad and good. But I'd learned from school that if you join a group of 10 fools, you become automatically 11th fool. That's how life works. But if you join a group of 10 brilliant, hardworking, ambitious people, chances of them lifting you up are much higher. Chances of you being challenged to do things differently are much higher.
This man went to school, wasn't a great student, but was determined to make something of himself, not to repeat the cycle of poverty.
So then I went in A-levels, so I was a leader still did the same stuff, but I failed my A-levels. I was one of the worst performers among the leaders. I was the worst performer of the leaders. I was actually written off.
He had many different jobs and was encouraged to take the travel and tourism course, where he did very well. He surrounded himself with incredible people to help uplift him and encourage him. He took many jobs of cleaning, doing some tours here and there, and really trying anything. He went through a lot of hardships, including not being able to eat meat for a very long time. That just was showing how far he had come.
A doctor, Canadian doctor, who was working with the Tororo Hospital, comes home and says, take that guy to Kampala to study a course in tourism. That's how I ended up in Kampala in 1996, September. But as a young man, I knew my weaknesses. I knew, like in a young man, I needed to find a group of people that, one, have similar mindsets like mine, but two, people that will compound my faith. So as a Christian, I needed that, such that it helps me not divert from the dreams and that God has set out for me. Run by Baptist Student Center. So every Friday I used to make popcorns, clean the chairs. So I became a leader through doing those kind of things, volunteering. So every Friday I used to go there. So it helped me with my faith a lot. But at the same time, there were people who had similar backgrounds. So it was easier for me to now start learning the city through them.
I learned a lot of lessons about starting a business with this man. He talked about how he was so determined to make it that he tried everything from hiring cars, renting cars. He'd show up at meetings for weddings and offer a car service that he really didn't even have. But he went in there and he tried.
So I would attend wedding meetings where I am not invited. So it's a church. I used to go to a Toto church. It was called Kampala Pentecostal Church. So I knew whenever they had wedding meetings, I go and sit in the wedding meetings. Every Thursday was the best time. And then Saturdays at the National Theatre, that's where weddings were. So I was sitting there and they'd say, oh, we want cars for weddings. Then I would show them I have cars for weddings. And I would charge, say, $50 for a Mercedes-Benz. I would charge $35 for Corona for the wedding. And I would make $10 or $5 depending on the stuff. So every day by 6 a.m., I would be at the washing bay making sure the cars are clean, hand them over to the guys, and I go for 9 months. That's what made me survive.
He traveled to the Netherlands to go to a tourism show where he was adamant on making connections in the area of tourism because he had seen that he was good at this when he was working for a company. And he knew he had the knack and the desire when he was at school.
Then I had extra $2,000. I said, okay, I'm going to now Holland to look for business. I found a visa. My friends hosted me in Holland. I went to Utrecht. In Utrecht, in Netherlands, every January there's a tourism fair. So my friends took me there, started looking for business. I worked hard, but it was very tough because I had no backup. There was no one. But every night I could go and look for tour companies.
Over time, he had many ups and downs, including struggling to make the rent and continuing after his car was damaged, actually destroyed and write-off, continued paying that off.
When I'm in Holland, I'd left the car with my cousin. A friend of mine had come to borrow the car for a wedding and gave it to a drunkard. They smashed it. Finished. I come back and many guys started telling me, man, we told you can't manage business. What are you doing in business? It was hard. Just have to go and look for a job. Now the owner of the car demanded me $2,000. I have taken on an office, I'm paying $10 a month. I've taken on a first employee, I'm paying about $20 a month. So all this was such a big burden.
He had somebody from the Netherlands watching a chat room for tourists coming to Uganda and encouraged him to take a few tours. And he did that. Some Canadians, some Americans came over and he provided exceptional customer service. And this is the other lesson that he taught me.
But this lady came, Cynthia, in January 2002, and I gave her a tour guide, and a very, very good tour guide who knew about 700 different species of birds. Very nice. Went to Queen Elizabeth National Park, man. She loved it. I hired a car. She loved it. So she comes and says, man, when I go back to the US, she was working with the World Bank. If I go back to the US, I am going to do something for you. So I thought, but she actually recommends a group in May. That group, they come and there are 6 of them. I again organized a trip for them that come from World Bank to do research on malaria. But I combined two groups of people. So there were 6. A group from Canada and those guys.
Excellent customer service is the key to any industry where you're working one-on-one with customers because it's those good reviews that are going to come back and help you in the future.
So those guys just would go on the internet to recommend me because I had given them a good experience. So I learned about the value of giving people good experience. And if you see, all over the internet, I have a very good name because of giving people good experiences.
He said he made it his mission to talk to every tourist before they went on a tour and talk to them again after their experience. That personal touch made a difference.
But at that time, I was doing one very important thing. I met every tourist before they left for the national parks, briefed them about their trip, and also met every tourist at the end of their trip and told them about where I've been, where I am, and where I'm going. So that one helped them buy into my vision. They buy into your vision.
He had taken a gentleman around, and he was from the US, and he said, when I go back to the US, I'm going to do something to help you. Of course, Amos didn't think anything of it because he was just working so hard. He had faced some time, so he was ready to give up because it was too difficult.
Things become hard July. August, I contemplate closing. September, I actually attempt to give up the office. But a voice just tells me, but I'm not a saint of anything, but I believe in God. I believe there's a power out there. But just keeps telling me I must hang in there, man. I hang in there. October, I hang in there, man.
But something told him to keep going forward. And later that year, the American contacted him and let him know he was an editor of the Washington Times. He had done a 3-page article, and it snowballed from there. You can imagine the amount of tourists wanting tours by Amos.
November 22nd, I get a phone call from the US. My name is Tom Carter. I traveled with you in May. By the way, I am an editor with Washington Times. I've written an article titled Herds Bypass Uganda. Such a beautiful country without tourists. Both. 3 pages. My contact there, man. Hey! First group comes, we read about it in Washington. Second group, and every group was a car.
He was really, really doing well. So he had to buy more cars, kept moving forward, even though he didn't have tons of income disposable. He learned, though, you have to put out money to make money. Before you knew it, his business was set. He was able to buy an estate and build an office in the garage.
I said, okay, let me now go and hire a small house in an estate, small estate. Then use a garage as my office.
5 resorts he started, 5 of them in Uganda and 1 elsewhere.
The founder of 4 different resorts in Uganda, 1 in Tanzania, and he's building the 5th one in Uganda.
The key, he says, is staying humble, staying true to yourself and working hard. He had had many rejections in his life. Never give up. Be resilient, work hard, and customer service is the key. So many gems of knowledge and information for me to take away from this story. I encourage you to check out the story. It's a long one, but a definite tearjerker. I was inspired by Amos and his story. Thank you, Wadamai, for sharing that one as well.